My name's Alex Glad. I've been with Lookout for almost 6 years now. And before that, I've been working in the mobile security industry for almost a decade. So here at Lookout, I'm a product manager. My main area of focus is I manage our phishing and content protection product across our suite of products. What we recognized as a emerging problem in the phishing space was a lot of people have protection for a long tail of recognized phishing attacks, but where we saw a gap was in phishing sites that are being newly created each and every day. And we've also seen a trend of phishing sites lasting shorter and shorter amounts of time. So unless you have detection in place right when a site is created, when a domain is registered, when a certificate is created for that site, you may miss it completely and that the attack would have happened and nobody would have ever known about it until, whoops, all of a sudden all of our data is now exposed on the dark web. So we're really focusing our artificial intelligence and machine learning on detecting those sites as soon as they get created. In many cases, we detect them as soon as a domain name is registered or a TLS certificate is created for those sites. And we actually, in many cases, watch them get built in real time so that we can verify not only does this domain look suspicious, but we can see the content as it's being put up on the site and verify, yes, this is definitely a phishing site, and we can do takedowns almost immediately in those cases. Following along to the story of watching for sites being created in real time, we recognized a domain that looks sort of fishy. So it was flagged by our artificial intelligence. An analyst saw the flag and started watching the domain. We watched the web server get stood up for the IP address that was linked to that domain name. We watched content being put on that site. And what we actually discovered was they were attempting to copy a voter data system for the DNC. As soon as we recognized what the login page was, very faithful recreation of the DNC login page in this case, we notified both the DNC and the hosting provider in this case, and we were able to get that site taken down very, very quickly. This is a great example in the enterprise space where I think a lot of people are used to phishing attacks that are going after the consumer side of somebody's business, where I basically want to harvest as many credentials as possible from everyday people so that I can attempt to compromise their accounts in other systems like banks and stuff like that. In this case, what we discovered was a phishing site being targeted at the AT&T corporate logon page for AT&T employees. So this is a case where it's a much more targeted phishing attack. I'm not just trying to harvest as many credentials as I can. I'm actually trying to get into AT&T's internal systems, and you can imagine the havoc that somebody can wreak once they get into a system like that. This particular case, they not only were harvesting credentials like username and password, but they also had flows built for harvesting MFA tokens. So in this case, even if you have good authentication hygiene within your corporate infrastructure, I'm going to set up a phishing campaign that not only gets username and passwords, but MFA tokens. And if somebody falls for that phishing attack, you're totally compromised. In this case, it was a very faithful recreation of a NetScaler login page. The domain name they chose in that case was very convincing as well. And this was a case where our artificial intelligence picked that attack out based on the IP address that was being used to serve that content was part of an IP block that we had already flagged and identified as being a known host of malicious content. So another case where it was an attack against the corporate side of Verizon's business, so not a mass credential harvesting attack, but a very targeted attack trying to get into Verizon corporate.